Hard hat's all about showing up to play hard, doing what it takes to win.
If you want to cement legacy, win another.
He's your third center.
You don't want to puff him up too much, but it's hard not to.
This is maybe the most I've ever agreed with you.
Amit! Damn it.
No, he's got too much going on. We apologize for the delay, but Jimmy Toscano was frantically looking for his hard hat.
Cam
and we couldn't start until he had it.
Nailed it, Cam. Congrats to you, my friend. It is a hard hat game. Hard hats, lunch pails, steel toe boots. Nailed it on the first try. I usually can't spit that out. But listen, John, if you're the Celtics, this was one that you wanted. If you're the Knicks, this was one that you needed. I mean, this Knicks team can't beat anybody good. They're the biggest frauds in the NBA. I stand corrected. I thought they were legit. They're frauds. And the Celtics showed up today, and it looked like vintage Celtics. I know the Knicks made a little bit of they made it interesting for about a minute. And then Derek White and Jaylen Brown had other plans there in the fourth quarter. But hard hat game for the Celtics. Kind of showing the Knicks like, hey, yeah, you're like just below us in the standings, but you are way below us off paper, if you will. So good win for Boston, good team effort. I thought they got it from a number of different players tonight or today, and a good sign coming out of the All-Star break here. A couple of good wins, and it feels like the Celtics team needed the break. They made the most of it. Guys came back refreshed, ready to go for the second half of the year as we kind of get through the doldrums of the NBA season now, John. This is like the toughest sports time of year. It's kind of like kind of meaningless for the most part, kind of meaningless basketball and meaningless hockey. If you're a sports fan, you're kind of cruising through the channels, but the Celtics made this one fun today for their fans, and got to tip the hard hat to them.
I would agree on all fronts. And again, it's kind of one of those, it's funny how the chat, is a little different here. Let's hear from Joe.
It's a Sunday
Let's
chat.
hear from Joe real quick. Yeah.
Giving up a lot of that lead, you guys had a big response. Maybe that response wasn't there during some stretches of the season. Now you're starting to get back to that. What are you seeing from your guys in being able to respond to the other team's runs probably a little bit better now?
Just have an understanding of what goes into those. So just tightening up our defensive, discipline, our game plan execution, and our offensive execution. So just fighting to be disciplined in those things throughout the game, knowing that, teams are going to make runs, especially a great team as they are. So, I think we're doing a better job of our executing, when bringing it back, right? Understanding what starts a run and then what ends a run.
Joe, what stood out to you about the way you guys defended tonight, particularly, at the rim, multiple efforts?
Only 11 free throws. I think last time we played them, Brunson shot 13 by himself, had 10 in the first half. So they had 11 for the entire game. That's huge. We had 12 turnovers where you saw some of that in the 39-point quarter led to some of their transition. But in the 3 out of the 4 quarters, if you don't turn it over, it's tougher for them to get out in transition. So we're just able to manage the margins for the majority of the game.
Joe, you guys guarded Cat with Drew Holiday and Jason Tatum for stretches of this game. You did the same with Embiid a little bit last game. What does it say about the versatility and adaptability of these guys that they're able to do that and give you more looks on defense?
Yeah, it's just, those guys are going to do whatever it takes to win. It allows us to keep our defensive versatility, play different matchups. Al spent some time on him too, and he did a good job. But, we just have to be able to go to different lineups, go to different coverages, go to different matchups. The guys do a great job taking advantage and taking pride in their individual matchup.
And then there are a few small moments throughout this game where you, it maybe looked like you were a little more excited. Like Jaylen made that layup after a big defensive possession. You were hyped up, gave him a high five. At halftime, you went over to Luke. Told him how good a job he did with those offensive rebounds. It looked like you always talk about how people focus on the final few minutes of the fourth quarter, but really there are little moments throughout the game. How big were moments like that in this one? Because it felt like there were a few.
Yeah, and for Luke's situation to come in and close out a quarter that way is really important for us. I think he's been making plays like that really the entire season, and has been an emotional spark for us, something different. And Jalen's, obviously the game wasn't going the way he wanted to, but I thought he did a tremendous job just playing through. And, it doesn't always have to be defined by scoring. And so his ability to really lock in defensively, or else he had a couple steals. He was in his shifts, got some deflections, got out in transition. And so I was just really happy with his mindset throughout the game of playing through those things. And that play was big because I thought it kind of started what he was able to do for us in the second half. And he just has the ability to do, so much for us. Without scoring. And, he takes a lot of pride in that. So that play was big, for him. And you saw what he did in the second half. So, just ending quarters, being defined by things other than scoring, things that impact winning. It's important.
You mentioned the amount of free throw attempts tonight. After how many times Brunson got to the line last time, how much of a focus was that for you guys? And what did you do better to kind of take that away from him? He's so herky-jerky, he can get
the main thing was we didn't foul him on three-point shots. I think we did that twice last game, so that's 6 out of the 10 that he shot in the first half, and then he ended up, I think, with 14 or 15. And so not fouling him on three-point shots is one, and then not giving up the transition ones that he's able to get because of your bad offensive execution or bad, crash that your transition defensive spacing is not good. So, but that was the difference there is we think we fouled him twice on three-point shots in that game, which gave him 6 out of the 14 or 15 that he had.
Derek was talking at practice yesterday about how he kind of was lacking. Derek White was talking about how he was kind of lacking joy a little bit during that tougher stretch, and that he's been able to kind of rediscover that. Do you see like a change in his demeanor, and just like how does that translate to the court and then kind of to the rest of the team? Yeah,
just playing with a freedom, right? I think as you become a better player, which he's done since he's gotten here, and with the success that he's had, the expectations rise.
He wasn't always good, Jimmy.
Rise, it's easy for the joy to be robbed.
Believe it or not.
And that's just
wasn't always joyful.
Ebbs and flows of a career, and I think there are moments where you have to fight for that. And so when he's at his best, he plays carefree. He makes big shots like he did tonight, and then he just defends at a super high level. And but you have to go through those. I'm glad he went through it. It was important for his growth. It was important for us to see him struggle because it shows how much we need him. And it was important for him to fight for that confidence because he's one of the best point guards in the league, and when he plays like that, we're a different team.
Hey, you
Facts.
touched on it a little bit, but Jalen, I believe, had
same goes with
points for
podcasting.
you guys in the fourth quarter, just during that stretch.
You got to have the joy.
Got to have the
Put on a good show.
Yeah, defense led to offense. Some of it was in transition, just really active on the defensive end, led to some easy points in transition there.
So what are you seeing from the starting five? It seems like you said before, like a couple of weeks ago, that they had been behind because Porzingis was hurt, and just to catch up. Are they catching up? What are you seeing from that group?
Yeah, I think so. I think again, whenever KP came back for that second 11 stretch period, that was kind of like our training camp, to where we had to just reestablish our identity on what that looks like, and that identity changed because the environment changed, and so teams were playing us different. And they'll continue to do so, and so it just took time to get into each individual rhythm. What we do as a team is really important, but how each individual guy fits into that is important. And so they're doing a better job of having an understanding how they impact each other, and we just got to continue to get better at that.
Joe, we everything we're talking about is about mentality, right? Even when you had that tougher stretch, no one thought that you guys forgot how to play basketball. Can you explain the challenges of staying locked in mentally, and where when it's not going well, maybe you let go of the rope, so to speak, but when it is going well, you absorb a 20-point punch and you fire back and you go back up 20?
The goal wasn't to win by 20. I didn't care if we won by 1. It was execute. I think when we were quote unquote not playing great basketball, we were top 5 in both offense and defense, and so the process of what we were doing was good. I think what separates winning streaks and separating yourself in the standings and as a team is winning close games, and then winning games when you're not fully healthy, right? And so there was 27 games last year where we were missing 2 to 3 players. And I think we won 22-5 in that setting. And so within that tough stretch, there were multiple games where we didn't win because of our depth. And that's not an excuse. It's just we have to win those games, and we didn't. And so that's the difference between going, whatever it was, 17-13 the case may be, and 22-10. And so it's doing the things that are important to winning close games, especially fourth quarter execution, ending quarters better, and then being able to win games when you don't have everybody. That's a big thing because it shows how important the role guys are, the bench guys are. And so it was good for us to go through that, and we may go through it again. It's going to get only harder. And so we have all the information, and we have the mentality that we need to go through those things.
through 3 games against it. It feels like this matchup has brought the best out of you guys in spots here. What are some challenges the Knicks matchup presents for you guys, and what has made you so effective at responding to them?
Yeah, I mean, try not to operate by feeling. So at the end of the day, they're a great defensive team. They're extremely tough on the margins. They've shown that they can beat us up on the glass, that they can get us in transition, and they can get to the free throw line, and that's where they test our discipline, and we have to continue to get better at that. Thanks.
That's Joe
Thanks,
Mazzulla walking off the podium there as the Celtics take down the Knicks 118 to 105. Celtics improved to 41-16 on the season. We'll have more from the TD Garden post-game sound, Bobby and Noah, and all of that stuff. And I know, Joe is out
Cornet
there.
crew.
Yeah. It's a battle, Jimmy. I'm worried.
Not on Bobby's watch, though. You saw
You
my
talk about, I saw that. You talk about what's gonna split up. The Celtics are strong. I'm not worried about their chemistry. What's gonna split up the Garden Report?
Yeah.
This might be it.
Who would have thought?
This incursion from Noah on Luke Cornett.
She's infiltrating for sure.
You
can tell Bobby has like the alerts on when anybody tweets the name, he gets like the notification, and as soon as Noah does, he's got to come over the top on it. You know what I mean? Like he's got to get the last word. Word.
It's something. Hey, JTVS, we're happy to have you live. I love it.
Yeah.
Normal time for some people.
Is it like 9:40 over there PM, or is it the other
depending
way
where you
I
are?
don't know. It's true. Europe is.
Yeah, you got a few.
I'm not the guy to talk.
Yeah, exactly. The Australia, some people in Australia, it might be a little bit tougher
definitely hurt. You're not watching in Australia most likely right now. That's 3:40 a.m.
It's tougher, but yeah, Luke is tearing us apart. The Netherlands. So what do we got? 5 hours there. Hello from Sweden. Yes,
Sweden.
I freaking love it. Love it. International stuff
is worldwide for sure.
It is great.
I know that because we've sold a lot of hard hats all over the world. And that reminds me, guys, get to the merch store this week, John. This week, we're getting the final mock-ups for some new merch. I've been promised. So everyone keep your eyes peeled. But the hard hats are still going strong, and we've been shipping them all over the world. And I mean that, which is very humbling and very cool.
Yeah, I love that. And hello from Canada. Australia is listening.
Canada.
I love it. We love having you guys. Jamaican watching in Canada. It's great. Come on. Let's go over a couple of things. Joe saying nice things about the Knicks, about their defense is incredible. I mean, yes, theoretically a Thibodeau defense should be, but the reality is the Knicks are 18th in defensive rating this season. They just gave up 142 points to the Cleveland Cavaliers recently. They're a bottom team defensively, and that's definitely a problem for them. But, Celtics put the clamps on them as well, at least, outside of that third quarter with a near perfect first half, and really got them out of sorts here. I mean, the story, there's two stories, right, Jimmy? One, I do feel like a lot of the stuff that irked us over the Celtics, not to say it's not going to rear its head. You're in that weird zone, post-trade deadline, pre-playoff push where things get a little bit like in the schedule. Yeah. And that's fine. And the Celtics will have some easy games here too. So yeah, could there be some letdowns? Sure. But I think the fear factor on shit, is this team going to friggin' be a bunch of just lazy dogs here, jerks and piss it away and not try in the playoffs and say, well, we didn't have energy. I feel less with that. The other things you have to feel good about coming out of this break here, a lot of people killing Holiday. He's gone next year. He's not the same. He looked like that version of Drew Holiday. I even think the broadcast said it at a certain point, Jimmy.
They said, how many Drew Holidays are out there?
How many Drew Holidays are out there? That's how you know he's back, right?
Right.
That's the classic line. It's like he was here and then he's here and then he's here. And wait a second, how did he get over there?
Yeah.
And that's exactly right. That's the time he was switching, jumping out, stopping the ball, doing an unbelievable job, kind of rotating over. And then of course we saw that thing that he can do, which is guard anybody, including 7-footers or 6'7" wings. He's just all over the place there. So yeah, look, have White and Holiday at different points in the schedule gotten attacked by some quicker guards? Sure, but those guys eat up everybody. There's not a lot of guys out there staying in front of like Maxey. Like those guys just are what they are. They're really slippery. They're really fast, and it's difficult to do. But it's the versatility, the switchability, how smart they are, clogging the passing lanes, knowing when to double, knowing when to hedge, just making all the right reads, switching, not leaving shooters open. That makes these guys transcendent. White and Holiday, in addition to what they can do individually, at different times. So Holiday looked great. But the other story is the Knicks.
Can I say something real quick just to piggyback on that?
Yeah.
And then I'll let you explain what the second story is, because I actually don't know what the second story is. But regarding Holiday, he's like hockey tough. So you might see a game where Holiday looks like he's maybe not the Holiday that but he's the type of guy that I feel like could be playing through pain, and he would never tell anybody. He wouldn't even tell the trainers type deal. I'm not saying he's stupid and would play hurt and risk further injury, but I feel like he plays through pain, and he's a physical guy out there, and his job is to defend. And when you're exerting a lot of your energy like that on the defensive side of things, you're taking a lot of contact, you're, kind of cutting back and forth a lot more, and you're using your lower body a lot more. That can wear on you a lot faster than somebody like, I'm not going to name names, but somebody that might not be, performing on the defensive end at the same level. So I think that can kind of hinder you a little bit on the offensive side. So we were really lucky last year with what Holiday was able to do on the offensive side, and specifically the corner threes. And I'm sure that's dropped somewhat this year, but I still take him almost over everybody in the league when it comes to who do I want out there in a big time situation where I need to stop. And Holiday's going to be that guy. And Derek White is right next to them. We said it last year, and the same can be said this year. When those guys are on their game, best backcourt in the NBA. And there's no reason to believe that isn't the case this year. So I just wanted to
No, but you're right. Like when those guys play well, this is the kind of game where you see it on a national level, and the broadcast recognizes it as well. But like Celtics fans, we've seen this movie before. This is those games where you walk away and be like, okay, they're insanely good. Like, how in the world does a team stay with these guys when they put it on display like this? And again, third quarter hiccup aside there where it just didn't work. They were a little bit off. They found him. They found him.
We had him stashed away. We didn't give him away. We just stashed him for a bit.
Good contributions from the Netherlands there. Yeah, we found him. We found the hard hats. But
that's what happens, John. You go on a little vacation, you come back to work.
Yeah. Then you realize, okay, it's back. They might have company. Last year they were here and everybody else was here. And there was really no question. There was nobody who could level up. And so there's no fear that they could lose a 7-game series, honestly, against really anybody. I don't care who was healthy and who wasn't. You've got other teams up with you right now. So that's a little bit different. The second storyline is, of those teams up with you, the New York Knicks are clearly not one of them. This is I don't want to go Stephen A. Smith, and hyperbole with calling them flat out frauds. They're just simply,
I already did.
They're not at that level. They're just not. They're not. There's again, why aren't they a great defensive team? You'll never be a great defensive team with Towns and Brunson as your two best players. It's really hard to do. And the Celtics did the same thing that they always do. Keep getting those switches until you get, Cat out there in space, put him on an island, make him try to defend, or, get that mismatch and get somebody in there, or try to get Porzingis on Brunson or something like that. It's just, a really good team can hide one person defensively. You can't, it's really hard to hide two. And those guys are their two most, important players on offense. And then their defensive players are the guys who at least are brought in to stop the Tatum and Brown. You got to be, you got to do better than Anunoby's doing, offensively on this end. You can't just be out there playing okay defense. He just wasn't really a factor on the offensive end. So it's just not enough right now that you're getting out of those guys, not enough out of these players, and not enough against the better teams. And again, if you look at the Knicks here, this is the most telling stat here. They're 0-7 versus the Celtics, Cavs, and Thunder this season, and it hasn't been particularly close.
Yeah. No, 100. That is the story. And they have they have a great record against the teams that they won't see in the playoffs. And yeah, that makes their record, their overall record look a lot closer than what it should be in reality. But John, going back to your point on defense for them right now, Knicks made a gamble in the offseason. They made a huge trade. They got rid of Randall. They brought in Towns. I get it.
Who's been awesome.
Of course, I get why they did it. And we're the first two people on the show to say it. Good offense is going to be good defense. But the problem is, John, they still don't have good enough offense. So if they're going to take the hit defensively, they need guys that are going to be able to score more regularly to keep up. That's where the league has trended. They know that if they're just a hard-nosed, tough team that plays strong defense, that just might not be good enough. Now, obviously, injuries took a huge toll on them last year, probably be due to their style of play. So they take it back a notch this year, maybe on the defensive side of things, but they're not talented enough offensively to get it going. Or when they play a team like the Celtics, who are, when they want to be, one of the great defensive teams in this league, they just don't have enough talent to, like Brunson, for example, couldn't get to the line tonight, right? Celtics played smart, prevented them from scoring in a way that they're used to scoring, and not enough talent otherwise, whether it's Anunoby, whether it's Hart, who's a great player. Hart's a great two-way player for them. But what he lacks is going to be on that offensive side. The Celtics do not lack that. The Celtics are just as strong offensively as they are defensively. You just can't say that for the Knicks. You're muted. You're muted.
They're not there. And that's the thing. That's everyone's takeaway. And then the Knicks needed this. You said it at the top of the show. They had to do something,
They had
right?
to. And they lost by 20. I mean, not even close.
Every game, every one of these is national television, and every one is is a disgrace. I literally cannot believe the amount of people who are standing in front of our camera. Have you guys ever been to a press conference? You don't stand in front of the cameras. Sit. Oh my God, I can't even see the screen. Sorry, Jimmy.
Wait, what? We're good. We're okay.
I'm just staring at it. No, we're not. I can't even see if someone's talking.
I can see it.
Now I can.
Oh,
when I first started, there was like the 40th guy in front of the shot here.
I trust Amit. I trust that Amit will take the camera and he will pick it up and he will move it to a clear part of the press conference if he needs to. That's my guy right there, Amit. But anyways, Cat playing drop coverage is like Al on Steph, or is that AI on Steph? I can never tell anymore. Al on Steph, yeah. Yeah, Shaquille O'Neal, thanks for joining the show.
And I agree with this in terms of like letting the lead slip away. Like, did you ever feel at any point that they were in? Even when it got to 4, this didn't feel like, oh, here we go. It was annoying and sloppy, and they let their foot off the gas and were settling for bad shots, taking bad shots, getting caught with the Knicks in transition, and then just some sloppy live ball turnovers.
It's the NBA, right?
I mean, it happens. So I wasn't freaking out. It was just like, they tried it. That Tatum, it was really interesting, right? I'll be that guy. I don't give a crap, because it was, the two halves were a little different. The rotation of going back to Tatum playing with the starters all the way through, it definitely affects, it's again, we're trying to figure out that balance here. The only guy who didn't play well in the first half was Jaylen Brown. He was just out of sorts. And even Joe mentioned it before. You guys jump on me in the comments. Joe said it too. So just leave me alone. But he wasn't good at all. So it's like always like, and then that first sub rotation. So that second quarter, they dip a little bit when it's Jaylen and the starters, and then they took off again when it was Tatum and the bench. That was great. That was a great unit for them, and extended that lead to 21 heading into the half. And then the starters, took it even farther. But then Tatum and the bench was bad in that third quarter, and that's where they gave it back. That's where they gave it all away. So that didn't really work for them. That rotation, you weren't getting as much out of them, and everybody pulled it together a little bit better in the fourth. And then Brown, completely different dude in the fourth quarter, and I think it started with his defense. He really started to lock in. That's the difference between Jaylen Brown telling people he's a good defender and Jaylen Brown being a good defender. Like what he was doing there in the fourth quarter, being really disruptive, picking guys up early, putting pressure all over the place, fighting through screens, caused a lot of turnovers, caused a lot of disruption, caused the Knicks to get out of their rhythm, turned into easy baskets for the Celtics, and that's kind of where they take it away. So I'm giving Jalen a big assist there on that. There, Tatum was trending towards, and he does. He has too many times in and out. Tatum was playing a near perfect game at the half, and then kind of he started getting lazy too with his shots and this and that. So yeah, you want to nitpick a little. You want to see more complete games from your best players all the way through. They are human. They're not always going to get it. But again, you want to see them thriving more at the same time. And yeah, he does need that. He's got to get his layups going instead of searching for those tough shots. And yeah, he completely dug out of his hole. So he was great. He was great in the fourth quarter, but I think it started with defense. Then he got some easy buckets as well.
I agree. I think sometimes with Brown, I think sometimes it takes the opposing team to like light a fire under him. Like if like the Knicks play hard, despite, what they can't do on the offensive end at times, like they still play hard, right? And they're physical, and like Josh Hart's a guy that's physical, and so is Brunson. And I think, it's like when somebody pushes you, you push back. I think sometimes that's Jaylen Brown and that might go into the lapses. Like maybe he gets caught up in the flow of the game sometimes, but when you wrong Jaylen Brown, or when you push him, or when you doubt him, that seems to be when he becomes the best version of himself. And I feel like that's the same thing on the court. If he's in a physical game, he's going to respond and be physical, and sometimes maybe if it's not that type of game, maybe he's more susceptible to falling into that style of play too. And maybe that's when kind of lets things slip by. But, on prime time Sunday against a Knicks team that plays hard, that you got a great Jaylen Brown in this one. And again, that fourth quarter, I thought him and White were like the real reason why the Celtics kind of, as soon as the Knicks thought that they were, had life, or they were in striking distance, Brown and White kind of put things out of reach again. And it was their physicality. It was, their aggressiveness. And yeah, the commenter kind of nailed it. I love when Jaylen Brown gets in motion, he's like a locomotive, right? I mean, nobody wants to get in his way. Grabbed a nice offensive rebound, had a putback, then the corner three. That kind of put the kibosh on it. And I thought that was kind of like the dagger. And great game for Jaylen Brown. And listen, we've said this about Brown countless times. People never want to give us credit for giving Brown credit, but he answers the bell. He's hit a lot of big shots. He's showed up in a lot of big games. It's why he's Finals MVP and why he's highly regarded around this league. He can be a little in and out. He can be a little lackadaisical, and there's
how many syllables in that word?
Lackadaisical. That's 17.
Wow.
Lackadaisical. Yeah. But when he locks in, there's not many better two-way players in the NBA. When he's absolutely locked in, I think the consistency is what gets people frustrated sometimes.
I think so. But it's also like, I don't even think there's an S that high in there, but that's okay.
There isn't. It's just lackadaisical. It's okay. We're gonna let that one go. It's homeschooling, baby.
They do it different at home.
We skipped over that one.
We skipped over lackadaisical. Nothing lackadaisical about homeschool.
No, not at all.
No doubt about that. We'll take a quick pause here as we're talking things. Nothing lackadaisical about Prize Picks. Real opportunity here. Yeah, we all know about it. Real opportunity here to use your sports opinions and turn those into real money. NFL season is over. That doesn't matter. Tons of action here for you NBA fans. You want to get in on the mix. You can win up to 1,000 times your money on Prize Picks. You pick more or less on two stat projections of two or more players. And that's all you need to do. If you sign up today, you get $50 instantly when you played 5. If you download the app or sign up and use the code CLNS, don't forget that code CLNS. Get 50 instantly when you play 5. That's all you need to do. Prize Picks, baby. Run your game. Get after it. Back to
you got the whole chat spelling lackadaisical now. Guys, it's Sunday. It's no school today, no work today. We can shut our brains off. That's the beauty of Sunday. Let that one go.
Lackadaisical.
Lackadaisical. Lexical to daisical. Yeah.
It's like Willy Wonka sort of stuff.
Yeah. You know what? Add it to the, hey, you know what, John? We need some March Madness things. That's
We do.
It's
in there. Lexicodasical is in there.
There it is.
Shaquille Oatmeal is nice. Yeah, the bracket is coming, guys, and I am going to solicit a few suggestions because it's so hard to remember some of our stuff because
we say a lot of dumb stuff. It's hard to keep track.
Yeah, we say I got to write it down. I'm writing it down right now. Lexicodasical.
Yeah, the chat will not let me forget that one, so don't worry about that.
Yeah. All right. Good. We're in there. As we said, we just got word from Bobby Manning. He will be joining us in a little bit, so we'll get the Bobby
Sunday Bobby. Interested to see what he's rolling with today.
Yeah. Hi. What's going on?
DeQuavius Pork. It's
an awesome name. It's an awesome name. I like it.
It's an awesome name. Keep it.
It's an awesome name. So on top of this stuff,
so what
here,
else? So like, what else do we got today?
What else is going on? What else have you been doing, Jimmy? I honestly, I don't know where else to go, particularly in this game, simply because there was so much to like off of it. I find it so strange that there's.
What do you think of the Derek White joy thing? Because that was a talking point.
Yeah, I have thoughts.
I think I might be on a delay or something.
No. I have thoughts on the Derek White joy thing. I wanted actually to have those guys run that clip that sound, and I was going to hit it later. But my quick thought on it.
I blew it.
No, it's okay. My quick thought on it is that to me is somewhat emblematic of some of the stuff that we saw going on with the team that felt out of sorts. And that was always my biggest issue. Like, this has always been my issue about not playing hard all the time or choosing when you play hard. It's not realistic to expect a team to play at its best or every player on the team to play at its best for all 82. I think that's ridiculous. But what ends up happening when you don't, or when you're not sure, like, if you're Derek White or Drew Holiday and you show up and you're like, here we go, I'm all psyched to go 110%. And it's one of those games that Tatum's like, I'm going to jack a bunch of threes, hope they fall. And if not, I don't know if I'm in it. Yeah. And then you're like, oh, so I'm sorry. Is this the game you're not trying? I wish someone had told me. So it's fine. Everyone understands they're humans. It's not all the time, but it's like, if you're out there and your intention is to go all out, and then a couple of other guys aren't, you're like, oh, okay, maybe you guys, maybe next time, maybe not. But that stuff can kind of like fester or be weird. And people are trying to find themselves. And it's like, how do we get Jason activated? How do we get Jalen activated? Well, the collateral damage are guys like Holiday and White, who sometimes you forget how much they do for you, and then they kind of get lost in the shuffle, and you go through a little cold stretch there when you're White, or you're not as involved. You don't have the ball in your hands as much to make up for it. The shot's not falling. You start to feel shitty. It's like, I'm not getting the opportunities and the reps, and these guys are going through something and feeling their way through some things, and I'm just kind of stuck here, and this isn't as fun. It's fun when we're all doing the Celtics basketball thing and everybody's trying, and then we're playing on a string, and I don't like this as much. So yeah, you're always risking. You don't know what negative is gonna what adverse effects these long stretches of inconsistent play are going to have on the rest of the team. So I wouldn't be shocked if kind of White went through, like, almost feeling what we're all feeling. Like, this is a slog, like it's exhausting watching these guys, or, I have to imagine at times it has to be exhausting playing there. And that's been gone. Now they're like 10-2 over their last few. The real only dud was the Dallas game. And everything else has been really like strong to oh wow, they're all the way back. So I get that with him. Their bad stretch of play kind of coincided with him, going through a real cold spell.
Yeah, what's really interesting about Derek White is that when you hear him speak and when you watch him or whatever, he doesn't seem like a very emotional guy. Doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low. He seems like pretty even keeled, and that's worked for him. But it does feel like his emotions greatly affect his game, like his confidence. Like, remember when they traded for him, John, and everybody was saying, Derek White, great player. And we were saying, well, we're not really seeing it. He's missing a lot of shots. This might not really have worked out. Wow, look at that from Greece.
No, this isn't just from Greece. This is my guy.
Oh, this is your guy.
This is like a cousin. This is like a close family friend.
You guys are all cousins, right?
Also, Elias Medias. Yeah, his name might rhyme a little bit in English. First off, there's two of them. He has another cousin, Elias Medias. But this Elias Medias is a friggin' ball player. I'll tell you that. Oh my God!
Is there like maybe there's like a YouTube highlight reel I can check out?
No, but you can watch his band play. He's a hell of a guitarist too. What's up?
Maybe
Elias?
we can do a little. Maybe I can join it for a couple of acts.
Antonio,
I'll travel to Greece.
Yeah,
we're massive in Greece.
Yeah.
Anyways, back to Derek White for a hot second. When he's confident, when he's feeling good, you can just see it in his play out there. He's just another level of player. And then, these guys are human. We tend to forget, they're actually, they're really, really, really amazing at what they do. And what they do is something that everybody loves and is interested in. But off the court, a lot of these guys are just like you and me, and they have things going on in their lives that affect their work, just like a lot of people would. You try your best to leave it at the door, but sometimes things spill over. Sometimes it affects you. We all know how important it is to try to like keep your mental health where you want it to be. And sometimes you just go through a rut. And Derek White, I mean, the guy hasn't stopped. He was on the Olympic team. They obviously won gold. Everything was great, but not a lot of rest, away from your family and friends a lot. Definitely seems to be like a family guy. So I can see how things might just get to you. And, sometimes you just need to go, like Joe Mazzulla said, he's glad that, kind of in a way, glad that Derek White went through it, came out of it on the other end. And now he's kind of back to where he's, what we're used to seeing, I guess, from Derek White, which is, a top player in this league. And again, a guy that's going to be very important to them down the stretch into the playoffs. The one thing I will say about the Celtics team, John, and I think we've seen it, is like they are extremely talented. But you mentioned it earlier. There are other talented teams in this league. Celtics are talented, but they're not talented enough where guys can just not be who they're supposed to be. Because you leave the door open a little bit, somebody's going to kick it. I don't even know what the saying is, but somebody's going to kick it open. And you're not going to be able to walk or coast to the NBA Finals this year. And, I would say the Celtics even kind of coasted through the NBA Finals with the matchup that they had. So those guys need to go through it, come out on the right side of things, and just play basketball, right, John? Just play basketball.
Oh, is that a tease?
Just play basketball, baby.
Merch
That's
store.
all they have to do.
Yeah. No, I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
Why? So, we got no, that's Jeff Twist. Jeff Twist giving announcements at the podium. Not anybody. False alarm.
Yeah, I was gonna say. How's your age?
We'll get into more game recap stuff. I am curious about a couple of things. So we're into the deep cut section of the Jimmy John section of the podcast. I am surprised as Sam Hauser played only 9 minutes. I don't know if that had to do with the matchups or he's hurting again. His shot looked pure. Jackson, I got to say something. I was going to save it for the end of the show. We have some horribly sad news here at CLNS in the Garden Report. But we'll get to it. But
he's alive.
We might have we've lost it. We lost a valuable employee, but I guess we've retained a fan, which is good.
Yeah, we gained a viewer.
Jackson, who was like kind of trending towards being Amit Jr., is moving on, different career path altogether. Sad to announce it. No, Sherrod didn't retire. Jackson, behind the scenes. If it wasn't Amit, it was Jackson. And I'll tell you guys, you probably gave Amit a lot of credit that belonged to Jackson for some of the work he was doing behind the scenes here,
there you go.
Both at the Garden Report and at CLNS. So yeah, that's fine. And
Jackson will be around. Hey, you know what, Jackson? You get the itch.
You know?
You get the itch. You want to come back. You never know, John. Maybe there's a show here, show there. Who knows?
I'm hoping that my door. Jimmy, my door is always open. Look at who I work with here at CLNS. A lot of open doors. Right. I've left my door open for a lot of people. I have.
Yeah.
Sherrod, Hags, Giardi, come on back, guys.
You might just see Trags back someday, God willing.
My door's open. Once you're out, you're out. No. That's not how I operate.
No.
And
Depends.
yes, we are.
If you suck, then yeah.
Is it? I can't ask the question. I don't want to ask it.
What's the question?
I'm not doing it. I'm not going to pit Joe Sway versus Noah here. I'm not going to do it.
I didn't know that was the question.
I would never do that.
No, we don't do that.
Yeah,
We're on the same team. We're on the same team.
We're all on the same team here. Blame baklava would be good. Someone said, can we do a blame tiropita? But blame baklava might be better. Opa, we're gonna do that one of these days. We got to switch it up. There's no blame pie in victories. Sometimes there is. Huh? Oh, I don't know. This year relative to the others, I have no idea. It's April 20th. I just looked it up. We've shortened it to Greekster.
It's April 20th? I think that's regular Easter.
Sometimes they coincide.
Wow, I think this year they do. Meeting of the minds.
That's one less feast.
A lot of Easters. Easters are flying off the shelf.
But it's also one less feast I have to cook, which is good. that part is good.
Do you consolidate pies in them?
Nah. Because they cook. One will be like a lamb style, lamb and potatoes and Greek things. I try to make some Greek dishes, and the other straight up like rib roast or something like that. Or what do you people eat on Easter?
Like ham.
Ham. We do a ham.
We do ham like a roast. Ham and like a roast. I think that's it's like white people things.
Yeah, we're gonna hear from Kristaps Porzingis in a little as well, I believe. Oh, did Bobby send him? I should be. Oh, and it looks like we got Cat. So give me a second, guys. I'm gonna get this sound loaded up for us.
With the knee injury.
Oh no, I'm sorry. It was, but was anything in the world more certain than him being full of crap? On that injury, I didn't think he was that hurt. He was not hurt.
Oh.
I mean, he was hobbling a little bit.
But
he went down like his leg was going to fall off. Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys can tell him about places to go to Greece in the chat. Yeah. There's a lot. There's almost no bad place to go in Greece. It's really hard to go wrong.
Never been. Would love to. I feel like it's a good couples spot maybe though. Like I don't know if you're going with the boys. But then again, you can kind of go out. Right?
You absolutely could, because the club scene on the islands is outrageous for people not my age.
There you go.
So yeah,
I stand corrected. I guess I'm going to Greece.
Oh my God, you can absolutely rip it.
I remember Lindsay Lohan was like big on Greece for like a hot minute. And I think that was right around the time she kind of fell off the wagon.
I think I have Bobby. When I get a thumbs up, we're going to go to Bobby in a little bit. I think Bobby's in here too. Let's bring in B. Manning here on this game. Bobby, I know you talked to a couple guys in the locker room. We haven't heard from Brunson or Porzingis yet. But while we get that sound ready to go, just give us overall thoughts on this game here. Again, Jimmy and I were talking. Any concerns about the Celtics, I think you can kind of put past. This looked like close to with the exception of that third quarter, a championship level type of Celtics team, both offensively and defensively. The way they were moving the ball, and the way that they were playing defense was great. Also, the Knicks just aren't there, and I don't think they'll ever get there.
Doesn't seem like it. Now, the third quarter was great for them. They did slash it from 27-4. So that was a real comeback. I don't think that was just taking your foot off the gas and letting the other team back in and then turn it up. I think the Knicks turned it up themselves and actually figured some stuff out. Now, is that enough to actually beat the Celtics in one game, which is what they're looking for at this point? At just one game, can they win one against the Celtics at this point? I don't feel good about it because it's just too many vulnerabilities on that side, and it's so amazing to think that they built that team to challenge the Celtics specifically with that in mind, and it feels like they've gone backward in their ability to do so. They can't even lay a finger on them through the first two games, and then in this first half here. I don't feel great about that team. Certainly they've had a lot of success against the rest of the league. They've struggled against the Cavaliers and Celtics in particular. Brunson, we just talked with him in the locker room after and said there was a different feeling for them after this one. other than the Cavs game where they just got absolutely annihilated the other day. They actually like that they pulled close in the third, figured some stuff out there, and fought. So they do take that as a silver lining from this one. But as soon as the Celtics got back to their game, you had Derek White, great passing in that early fourth quarter stretch. It turned into a 17-point game again, something in that range. So I've really lost all belief in them being able to challenge the Celtics. Now you get into a series, health, all that stuff. Maybe some things change, but Bridges was awful. OG looks terrible. Towns is a target on every possession. And then you have Brunson out there. Usually, John, the Celtics have to work to find their mismatch. The difference against this team is there's mismatches everywhere. Just go at anyone. You can beat them.
That's what I said is you can't play a team. I think what most people take for granted with the Celtics is that, the two-way versatility of basically everybody they put on the court, where even the poor defenders are competitive, or defenders are competitive. Bobby, I don't know what's going on, buddy. I don't know that you can be where you are right now. But I'll get back to that in a minute.
Got the wrong mic.
Yeah, it's possible. We're hearing a lot of background noise there, or Bobby is about to be assaulted by robots.
Yeah.
There's something coming here. Yeah. It's pretty bad.
But technically we all are about to be assaulted by robots. That's not far away.
I know the AI invasion
first.
Yeah. The AI invasion is in there. Let's try it again. No.
It's actually worse.
No good.
Well
it's
done.
Worse. Yeah. Let's check, guys. Closer. Guys out there, make sure that audio's coming through the mic and not something else there, not the headphones, because it's
he's got the headphones.
Loud. Yeah. Hold on 1 second.
Damn it, Amit. Yeah, it feels like he's now. See, I think the AirPods are coming out. Could be.
Tyler, you want me to touch on your last comment, but I got to go back and find it, buddy. I don't know that this is true. I mean, Towns has been incredible this year. It just changes the shape of things. It changes the identity.
Sure, yeah. For
Towns
sure
has been a top 10 NBA player this year. I mean, he's really been he's exceeded expectations, but you give up things. The Hartenstein thing wasn't a trade as much as they chose not to re-sign him. The question is, could you have done things differently? Might you have been better trying to retain Hartenstein, maybe not going all in on Bridges? Was that super important to you to do? I don't exactly know the best way to have put this team together, but you're going to lose something when you gain something else. But Cat's been phenomenal. So I don't know that you're not in Luka territory there for sure.
I think is.
Yeah, I mean,
but you lost your and Noah. I remember Noah saying this a couple months ago when we were, I think, after a Celtics Knicks game. But the Knicks they've kind of lost their identity. Like last year's team is like the identity was tough, hard nosed, physical.
I agree
defense.
with this. I agree.
They
gave up some identity, but they gained some talent. Yeah,
100%. And yeah, I mean, Cat. But listen,
did you think last year's team could keep up with them? It's a question. A fully healthy Knicks team that didn't lose everybody might have been a tough out for the Celtics for sure.
Oh, they would have been a tough
banged
out.
Up. Yeah,
they would have been a tough out, but I don't think talent. Again, it goes back to talent. I don't know offensively if they had that talent. Cat gives you that, but a little bit of you give and take with it, right? So, but you have to have enough around him to make up for what he lacks, I guess, on that side. But nobody would say that Cat is having a bad year. In fact, it's the complete opposite. He's going to make an all-NBA team this year. So you can't really argue with that trade.
Yeah. Adding Bulgaria to the Netherlands and Greece and Australia, where we know we have good representation.
Love it.
Yeah. And I believe we also had London.
We also have
We're
Bobby
doing pretty good here.
Longer,
and we also have Bobby Manning is back. What's going on, Bobby?
No longer in a war zone.
Yeah, I don't think it's Towns. I think it's
now.
Everybody. I think it's everybody on that side. Brunson, again, Bridge is just a complete no-show in this game. So it's different people for that team on different nights. I was actually surprised by how well their bench competed too, because they were playing such small lineups into their second units. And it wasn't a great night for the Celtics bench in particular, but I feel like it's not the roster construction, John. It's not Towns. It's not this or that. I think that team just needs to compete better. Again, we're not doing Knicks post game here, but I think they have everything they need. And Mitchell Robinson's going to come back. Maybe that changes some stuff. The shape, as you mentioned, I think that's a big part of it. I don't know, actually. That's a good question. But
you don't know. But no, Bobby, I'll say this because you're saying you made a little side comment there. We're not doing a Knicks post game show. We have a good idea who the Celtics are and what they are.
Yeah.
Really, it's relative to
is this team a threat to the Celtics?
How do they perform against other
like
teams? And it doesn't feel like it at all. So again, I'm starting to wonder, like, outside of Cleveland, is there anybody you're worried about remotely in the East? Maybe Milwaukee. Again, I don't sleep on them, and that post Middleton trade has gone a little better than I think some people thought it would have gone. So I'm curious, but the Knicks were it. Bobby. This was clearly the team that loaded up with Celtics stoppers. And look, you see what Cleveland's doing both in the trade market and the buyout market, trying to load up on wings to try to compete against the Celtics here and see if they can stay with them. And the reality is you can't, because you're always giving up something, there.
Yeah.
Like you don't have guys. There's just, you can count the number of two-way wings in the NBA who can do what Tatum and Brown do on one hand. So like, you can't really do much about those guys. You just got to try to beat them different ways, but everybody's gone all in on trying to figure out, how to contend with them there and have that wing versatility and depth so they don't eat you up. But like, the Knicks are always going to have this problem. You mentioned it at the beginning here when we had to toss you off the show. If you can't play the Celtics and try to hide two guys on defense, and that's what they're going to do every single game. With you're going to be putting Towns in space or getting Brunson on a switch, and those guys they have to be on the floor for 35 to 40 minutes a game for New York. So you're just going to be beaten on those matchups all game long.
Yeah, and those guys have to survive. They have to find a way to do it. I know they're limited. I know they're not the best defenders, but they don't do a good job. They don't get in good positions. They always giving up angles to the basket. Help comes, and then it's just pass. So one thing I've noticed, John, I think Joe said this over the years, is that the teams who really get aggressive with help, the teams who are packing the paint, who are trying to take that away, they end up making the Celtics look the best, because all of a sudden you're just swinging the ball out. The ball's flying all around. There were a couple 5-6 pass possessions in this game for the Celtics that were really good. And you can just tell that the Celtics are keyed in on a lot of the stuff that the Knicks try to do against them, because they're just all over it. I thought the defense was, outside of that Philly comeback a few weeks ago, about as good as I've seen all season. The Tatum matchup on Towns worked great early. Porzingis was able to play off hard and disrupt a ton. I think he had 4 blocks in this game. And that double big thing's really starting to look outstanding for them. And that's going to be their weapon. That's going to be the equalizer against Cleveland, because you're going to have to run some of those Horford-Cornet lineups, which have been really good. I think I saw it at like plus 13, plus 15 coming into this game through a lot of minutes, like 270 at this point. So the Celtics know who they are, John. The full health has helped them a ton. It feels like they're back in rhythm, playing with each other again. And Tatum's just been tremendous. He more and more looks like he's in full control of these games. He started, 0-4 in this one. So he did start slow initially, but he just stayed in it, kept making plays. The ball popped. I feel like the ball movement for this team's come along too in the last couple of games out of the break here. I felt really good about this team. Watching them tonight, and I actually enjoyed them quite a bit. This team frustrated me, John, in January big time. This was a really fun effort to watch from them.
I thought they played a near perfect first half. Tatum was so in control, the way he was moving, and just the way he was controlling the action and passing in that first half. I feel like sometimes he just shoots his way into an inefficient game for no reason by taking, making some poor shot selections there. So the final line doesn't look as good as he actually played, because he played a really outstanding game. I thought both ends there, for all of it. And you talked about the double big thing, which is, it's really funny, right? Talk about all of the apology cams owed to the Celtics from the masses. The too many threes from the people, not from me. Okay. Yeah, but I'll have.
You were not a double big guy, John.
I'm not a double big guy. I've never been. I'll eat that one. But the threes, from the get-go, Joe, too many threes. And the reality is, actually, sometimes they were probably not shooting enough threes. Bobby, we're drifting. We're going the wrong direction. Camera's going the wrong direction. Okay, you're off. We're off the air.
No, it's a lot of activity going on around here.
Yeah, we needed more threes, and in fact, you probably need more double big because the numbers have been outstanding. Speaking of those double bigs, let's hear from a single big, Kristaps Porzingis in the locker room after the game.
All right,
KP, what'd you guys say to each other in the huddle going into the fourth?
Going into the fourth, nothing. What was it? It was a kind of a close game, right? They made it a close game, and they made their run, and we wanted to make our run, and not give them any hope that this game can slip out of our hands. So that was it pretty much. We just looked at each other, knew that we had to bring it for the fourth quarter, and that's what we did.
What's made you guys so effective in this matchup? Obviously, that's a team that kind of made some off-season moves to challenge you guys. What's allowed you guys to be at your best against them?
Yeah, because we have good defenders, make it difficult on them. Obviously, they have really, really talented offensive players, but our versatility and the guys that we have on the team can make it really difficult for them, and yeah, obviously it's a dangerous team anyway, but we respect them, and we came out the right way in the first, and we set the tone for the game.
We're gonna quickly pop over to Tatum, who's on the podium right now.
Chances of winning really go through the roof.
This is live.
We're always aware of those things.
We'll get back to KP later.
But, limit them in transition, keeping them off the free throw line. Only give them one shot. We did that really well in the first half, third quarter, not so much. But we picked it back up in the fourth, and we was able to run away with the game.
Jason, when you're watching a 27-point lead kind of dwindle, the other team makes their run, you guys, whatever's going into that. Can you explain the mentality of like trying to kind of take control of that back and how you go into the big response in the fourth quarter to take back control?
I think a couple of things going to play is just like, don't panic. We've been there before. And, I guess kind of having a fresh start in the fourth. The guys that started that fourth quarter did an incredible job of getting stops at the right moment, getting out in transition. JB got some layups. We knocked down some big shots. D. White did. Drew was doing his thing. It's just all about staying poised. We didn't get that lead in one play, and we're not going to get it back in one play. Just keep building on making the right plays, understanding that, no lead is necessarily safe, and they're a good team. They got good players. They're going to make shots and not get discouraged by those things, understand that what we need to take away, because they were getting out in transition. They got some easy looks, and then, they start making some tougher shots. So understanding that plays a part, and knowing what we want to take away.
Jason, coming into the season, the Knicks regarded as perhaps your chief competition in the East, and you've obviously handled them 3 times this year. Why do you think you've had the success against them, and did you think about that coming into the year, and has that been kind of intentional in the way that you've played against them these 3 games?
Coming into today, right, the only thing that mattered was this game, not, what we did the first 2 meetings. That goes out the window. The only thing that mattered was getting ready for this 1 o'clock game today and being locked in and prepared. We play them one more time, coming, before the season ends, and, whatever we did the first 3 games doesn't matter. So just having that mindset of only thing that matters is the game today, and the rest will take care of itself.
Yesterday in practice, Derek was saying that he kind of lost his joy a little bit earlier in the season and has been able to regain that. And Joe was just saying that as expectations rise, that's just kind of what happens, and you kind of have to figure that out. Have you experienced that in your career as well, where as expectations have risen, whether in the NBA or before, you kind of have to fight harder for that joy? And with Derek, how important is it that he's kind of able to refine that for you guys?
Yeah, it's super important, and remember that stretch, and everybody felt for him. One, because he's such a great person and obviously a great player and what he means to our team. And, see firsthand how hard guys work and how bad they want things to go the right way. And it's not always the case. 82 games, you might go through a slump where you're not shooting the ball well or things aren't clicking the way that you would like or hope. But it's part of being a great player, part of being professional, and being consistent with the work that you put in and trusting and believing it's going to turn around. Because it's not always perfect, and you wish it would be. But that's our job as teammates, is to keep him encouraged, keep his confidence high, because we need him. Got to remind him every day. Not that he doesn't know that. He knows how important he is to our team. But, me and D-White super close, and, I tell him every day to be aggressive. We're always in communication during the game, just talking through things. We obviously wouldn't be who we are without D-White. So him finding his joy is super important to our success.
Jason, when you guys are at the Olympics this summer,
John, I got to dip out for a quick second.
I'm going to put him back on here because there's another Tatum question.
Teams are making moves. Cleveland brings in Hunter to guard Jason and Jalen, to guard Tatum. Like, that's kind of what's the coherent theme. When you hear that, when you hear teams gearing up to guard you, guard Jalen, to play you guys, does that motivate you? Like, when the Knicks are gearing up to play you and does that motivate you to play, I'll say harder, but just like, okay, you want some, you're going to get some.
It's just the responsibility you have when you win a championship. When the Warriors was going on their run, teams were building their team to compete with them. When Denver won the championship, Minnesota built that team to kind of beat Denver. So there's a responsibility that comes with, when you're the champs and you're the standard, guys or teams try to build their team to compete with that style of play or whatever it may be. But, the most important challenge that we have is, we just focus on us. It's no guarantee who we're going to play in the playoffs.
So we talked about bringing those guys in to match them up there and, whether it works or not. It's smart, I guess, to try, but, it doesn't always work the way you envision it. And right now it's not working. And the Knicks really thought they were loaded up to be able to contend with the Celtics better than they have been. And so far they have to really not love the return. So unless something changes, and that was the last question. So Tatum's off the podium. But the thing that I thought was really interesting here was Jason Tatum talking about Derek White's joy, which I know was an interesting comment that White had the other day. And again, why was Derek White joyless? Jimmy and I kind of guessed. Yeah, it coincided with not only personal struggles, but a time where the team was just going crappy, right? There. And Jalen's up at the podium now. I'll dip in a minute, Bobby. But there's no question that as White goes, this team goes, right? Like we've talked about before, like you're muted. I can't hear you. Try again. No audio out of Bobby, guys. If you guys can see if you can fix that. We're not hearing that. While you work on that, I'm going to put Jalen up real quick. Bobby, I can't hear you.
Most importantly, you just got to maneuver through the regular season and just keep building good habits and get ready to hit the extra gear as we get closer to the playoffs.
Jalen, you guys guarded Karl-Anthony Towns with Drew a little bit tonight with Jason. I know you guarded Embiid a little bit in that Philly game. What does it say about the versatility of your guys' group that you're able to throw, guards and wings on these big men, so to keep your defensive structure in place?
Yeah, that's key for us to be able to be versatile. So I think we take pride in that, in matchups and being able to switch and being able to guard guys. So that'll be a strength of ours going into the playoffs. We just got to stay healthy.
Jalen, Joe was saying he thought for you personally the game, I think his words wasn't going the way you wanted for a while, and then you obviously found something. What was a little bit off early, and then what allowed you to kind of have that big finish?
Yeah, tough start, to the game. Early game, getting the body going. I didn't feel my best today, and stuff like that. Been balancing, juggling a lot, but second half I was able to, make some plays. Even when I wasn't really feeling my best today. So Just maneuvering through the journey is normal. We just got to be ready each and every night. And our guys play well. I thought Drew, D. White, they were aggressive. And that's always a good sign for our team when Drew and D. White are aggressive, because that makes it harder to guard us as a team.
You said the other day, to follow up on that, that when you want Drew to be more aggressive, how does he sort of straddle the line between, not always being the first or second option out there, but also being ready? And what do you want to see him do more of, and how did your team change when he does do that?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, Drew's like more than capable of doing more. He's done that in the past, and he's still capable of doing it now. So, I mean, I just try to encourage it because, game to game, you can kind of forget, and you can get caught in your own like what you're supposed to do. But like I need Drew to be aggressive. So, every day I'm encouraging that as much as I can. As when Drew and D. White are aggressive, it's a good sign for our team.
Kind of on that note, Derek was talking at practice yesterday about how he kind of lost his joy early in the season, and he's been able to kind of rediscover that. As a teammate, when you sense that in somebody,
what do you think Noah's going to write about
in that situation, and how much of an impact is it when he's playing more?
We should make sure that we don't let her talk about that on the show.
Encourage it. I think that over the course, things may get away from you, or you just might think things are not going in your direction or the way you plan, and that can be discouraging. I just try to encourage our guys to be aggressive and to be who they are. The only thing that we need for you, regardless, is to play defense. Regardless how you feel, I just need you to play defense. And on the offensive end, what I mean? It's days where, I might not even take a shot in the first half or the second half just because I want other guys to be aggressive, and I'll be there when my team needs me. But throughout the regular season, you just got to encourage everybody to be aggressive because you want everybody feeling good going into the playoffs.
Jalen, when you've
Okay, so we are back. Bobby Manning
Jalen
is
on
back.
Joy.
Jimmy Toscano. Jalen on Joy. We've heard it all now, and so we've heard all the joy. But going back to it, why do you think? What happened to the joy? And it is important. And I do think the Celtics are at their best, Bobby, not when you're getting big Tatum and Brown games, though those are nice. They're at their best when the other guys are contributing on a regular basis. Like we've said it before, Derek White's not the second best player on the team, but he might be the second most important player on the team.
And he's muted. You muted him, John.
I didn't.
What? Yeah, you did. He was literally muted. I swear to God.
Let's try it again. All right, hold on, Bobby. We're gonna do it one more time. Go ahead, Bobby. We're good.
No, you muted him. He's literally muted. Okay,
Jimmy, stop.
It's probably a mix of physical and mental for White. Yeah, it's probably a mix of both of those because he did get hurt and he missed like a game or two in December there, or maybe early January with the foot sprain, which we worried about at the time, John. I mean, that's an injury that can knock guys out for a while there, and he didn't end up missing too much time with it, just a game or two. So he comes back. He felt like he lost the shooting touch, the balance immediately, and then that probably flowed into losing the joy, whatever other mental aspects went into that. But it was a long slump. We said it in January. It was probably about as consequential of a development, him falling off, as anything else that was going on with the team at the time. Even getting beat defensively at times that month. I mean, he just wasn't the guy that you came to rely on so much. And this team does. We've all agreed, I think, generally that that's the guy they can least afford to lose and least afford to not have him be himself. So it's ginormous that he's back. And not only back, but making critical plays. I mean, that shot after the passing sequence there, I think the Knicks were within like 4 or 7 at the time. They needed that badly, or it was going to be a one-possession game right back the other way, and he hit it. Next play down, he throws the alley-oop over the backboard there to Porzingis. It felt like he was involved in pretty much every play at the start of that fourth, and we've talked about it too before, John. He always comes through. It's unreal. Every time he takes a big shot, every time he has the ball in his hands in a big moment, you're like, wow, he's going to hit it. He's going to do it. Even there was a small rally at the start of the third. I think it got down to like 19, 17 or something like that. And he came right out of timeout. The Celtics called timeout and just ran a pick and roll with Porzingis and got him a 3-point play. He's been out of this world, and we expect it so much that it's glaring when it's not there. And we almost take it for granted when it is there. This team's dominance, them being at their best like tonight, he's such a big part of it.
Look at it. Look at what happened. I mean, in that the Knicks, are starting to mess with you, and they get that lead down, in the fourth quarter, and all. It's it's a single-digit game, 4 points, 5 points. Derek White hits 2 threes and then hits Porzingis on that alley-oop dunk, and all of a sudden, you're back to a double-digit game there, and then
Such a big play.
and then he kicks it over, to Jalen. And Jalen scores, the next bucket. So it's a 12-point game, 2 3-pointers and 2 assists takes it from a 5 to a 12-point game. And that's it. That was ball game. They got it back up over double digits. They never looked back again. That was,
and all those possessions were so important. I mean, it was like crunch time at the start of the fourth, basically. And then Towns goes down and it was all over from there. So this was a really good win. I know the Knicks have struggled against them. I know it's just a regular season, like Tatum was saying there. They're going to play a fourth time in April again, and then a playoff series. Who knows? Health could swing it either way. I do think Robinson's return could help New York a little bit, but I'm not imagining it swinging the fortunes in the series entirely. Well, it moves Towns away from center, so that is a big thing.
Mitchell Robinson is the friggin' Easter Bunny right now. Like he's Sasquatch. Like I don't believe he actually exists. Like I don't think this is a real person. And so saying that this is wait till this person returns, I don't see it. No,
it's just something that could develop here. Now the Celtics are healthy. Porzingis. It feels like he keeps getting in more and more of a flow each game. The defense he's bringing right now is so important. And then, bring it back to White with how well he's playing. You have the depth now. Even the bench guys early in the game, and the bench wasn't great through some of the stretches where they lost points on that lead. But Hauser hit a couple of threes early, only played 9 minutes, but those were important early in the game to build the big lead. Cornette, again, phenomenal. I mean, his stretches in this game that added to that lead and just stole stops away from the Knicks with the offensive rebounds there were so important too. And then Pritchard's out there doing Pritchard things. The 3 that Tatum threw the perfect skip pass to him for. And then he had an alley-oop to Cornette during that stretch where they saved the game too. So it's a complete team effort. And I talked to Josh Hart after the game, John, and I think they've said it on broadcast and stuff now too. Think of the amount of people you have to account for with this team, where Pritchard can score 28 in Philly, where Cornette's out there sometimes scoring double figures and grabbing offensive rebounds and throwing down alley-oops. You have Hauser, who you can't really play away from. We're talking about like 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th guys on the roster at this point. And, on a fully healthy night like tonight, you're not seeing Craig, but he's looked good in his first 2 appearances now too. So this it's not about the Knicks as much as it is the Celtics when they're playing at their best and everybody's involved. There's just too much. I said this the other night, John. I don't think you were on. We always get caught up about, are they single covering Tatum or are they double covering him? It feels like no matter what you do, if everyone else is rolling, there's nothing you can do. Like either one, you're going to get burned.
There's nothing you can do. It's a tough spot right now. So yeah, I don't see it. I don't see this team challenging the Celtics at any point in time here, and I think you got to feel pretty bad about things if you're New York at this point, considering your entire offseason was built around being able to compete with the Celtics, and you can't.
But again, they have a pretty straight path to getting into round 2 against Boston. They'll play Detroit or someone like that. They should win that series. And when you get into a series, anything can happen. So I give them very little chance to knock off the Celtics, but let's see where they're both at health-wise at that point. Let's see where, the Celtics and Knicks are both respectively at themselves. I think it's just so far away from that I can't completely say that's going to be a sweep of a series or uncompetitive, because there have been competitive moments between these two teams. But it feels like, John, I asked Joe about it. You guys heard it. They bring out the best in the Celtics. It's like the Celtics see them and they're like, oh shit, we have to be serious tonight. And this was like playoff level seriousness.
Yeah. It was so, and that kind of speaks to the first part, which is like the fear about, like, nobody wants to hear it, because when the Celtics, play, a stretch of like uninspired games, people will get all mad again and will wonder like what's going on, and are they blah 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 blah. And the reality probably are disciplined enough to be able to flip a switch, because it's very clear when they want to. You get an effort like this tonight, and again, this really closely resembled last year's Celtics, just in terms of everything that they were able to do on both ends of the ball here. We did talk about, again, we've spent a lot of time on the Knicks because I think it is interesting. Basically because you're just putting a nail in their coffin in terms of being contenders in the East. Here's Brunson in the locker room after the game talking about kind of, whatever, like how the Celtics have owned them all year.
We just had a level of not really caring anymore. Just like, all right, we gotta go somehow. And so, that from my point of view, that's what it felt like.
When you say, what do you mean? Do you care too much?
No, I don't care about me. I don't care about. It was like we all went there as, all right, let's just try to find a way to win. And we've done in the past against other teams, but I think it was the first time we did it against this team. So we can do it. We just got to do it for 4 quarters.
Defensively, how many of the issues do you think are like reoccurring things, or is it kind of vary on opponent? Is it something you see that's something you guys just have not been able to clean up specifically?
I think it varies from opponent, but I think X's and O's are the things we can clean up. But I think from us just having that mindset of like, all right, no matter who's on the other side of the court, everybody's got to step up and be ready to go. That's more our focus.
As the team captain, when you take these losses against the Celtics and also the Cavs loss, do you talk to the team about, do you take on a different leadership role in times like this?
I think there's always going to be a lot of times where there's a lot of voices being
the captain.
A lot of people being vocal, and so it's a matter of when and where.
Official title or unofficial?
This is official.
When we have a lot of guys in here who are talking and trying to voice their opinion, for everyone to get on the same page, is just knowing when to say something, because I think the more times you hear different voices, it can seem like too many cooks in the kitchen. So I think for me, it's just knowing when to say something and making sure I'm saying it early and often. So I got to be better at that aspect, because I'm not doing my job leading this way and being able to play. So, it falls on my shoulders, and I'm okay with that. And I could be ready to step up and lead and be better.
When you talk about focusing.
Strange captain questions to an anointed captain. It's a strange thing. Strange, but no, yeah. So that's where we have it. Noah, bringing joy to the podcast as always. What's going on? Have we? Did this game bring you?
My question.
No, we liked it. It's a good topic.
No.
Thank you.
And that was talking joy.
Did this game bring you joy?
Yes, it brought me joy for sure. It was a fun game to watch. I think we just.
Yeah.
What was it?
Sorry, we're on delay. You just go.
But yeah, it brought me, I think, just seeing this team, they really resemble last year's team these past few weeks. They really do. Like, that's the biggest difference for me. Obviously, the Knicks made a push. Like, they should be always making a push. I think the previous 2 blowouts, they really didn't, but it feels pretty inevitable when an upper playoff team is down by 25 that they're going to make a run. But the hallmark characteristic, and we talked about this a couple times in recent weeks, but they've just been able to respond so well to those runs where it goes from 25 to 8 and then it goes back to 25. And I really do think that's how you can distinguish like a team with a legitimate chance at a championship. And if you just look across the board, like Derek White's one of the biggest differences, I think, between now and a couple of weeks ago. Drew Holiday looks a lot better in these first 2 games since the break. It seems like the time off did him well. So just across the board, there are a lot of indicators that would make you really optimistic about this team. And I got my sister and her boyfriend tickets to this game, so I was really optimistic. I was hopeful that this was going to be one of those like home games that is not a letdown. So
that was a big thing too here. They've come back from break and finally get that home court thing. We listened to Porzingis and he talked a little bit about that. That was a weird thing that was going on early in the season, and not even just in January. They were dropping home games even before that. So that's a nice difference here, too, because they're going to be at home a ton after this little mini road trip coming up.
Yeah, and I think it never really made sense. Like, they have a good home crowd here. They were losing to bad teams. So it wasn't like teams were coming in that were like killers and coming in and feeding off the hate. I think it was just like classic, just kind of overlooking the thing that's right at hand, thinking about bigger road trips coming up, the human nature side of it that I think they've generally been pretty good at these past few years, but they did hit that stretch. And then I think it starts compounding into a confidence thing, which you saw with like Derek, for example. So
you even saw it tonight. I mean, the lead goes down from, it was a 27 at its most, and it gets to, I want to say around like 11. You just heard the, oh, in the crowd. And there is that pressure. There is that expectation from the crowd where even though you haven't blown it yet, even though the Knicks hadn't taken a lead, you're like, oh, this is starting to go the other way, and there's not as much applause, there's not as much cheering. I said this, I forget where I said this, but their road crowds where it's all Celtics fans on the road have almost been better and more excited and more energized and happy about things than the crowds you've seen here, because these guys are paying, I don't know how much you paid for your sister's ticket there, but these are like $200 seats, and you're going to see the champion, and you want it to be perfect. And I feel like that's been an element in this crowd this year and their performance at home.
I mean, it's also demoralizing for the home team when they're on the road and their home arena has become now a Celtics crowd. So I think it kind of goes both ways, where like if you're in Philadelphia and you're like, oh shit, like this is the first time in my career here where like I thought this most recent trip to Philadelphia, you would have thought you were in Charlotte. Like nothing about it felt like you were in a sports city. And so there's the element of the boost that it provides for the Celtics, and they totally embraced it. Everybody went and hyped up the crowd. Jalen, Jason, everybody did it. But then on top of that, like you had guys like Embiid and Maxey that I'm sure are like, things have gotten bad because look how bad this crowd is. So it does play both sides. I think the crowd, the weekend crowds are usually better. Like today I thought was pretty good. But you can sense how nervous they get. But this team's not getting nervous. That's like the big thing we're taking away here is that they're just so confident in themselves and be able to withstand these runs that as a spectator, I'm just waiting for the response because it's become so consistent these past few weeks that I didn't doubt that it was going to come.
The execution at the start of the fourth was awesome. There's no doubt about it. It was almost like crunch time level at the start of the fourth, and then you turn into a bud again. So, yeah, good responses.
No doubt. And you mentioned it's nice to get a home win because they haven't, it's been inconsistent there. Some people going in on the Boston crowd in the chat, but that's a different conversation for a different day.
They came into this game, John, like tied for 10th in home record after only losing 4 games here all last year.
Yeah, it's weird, but a couple things I want to hit on, because we've talked about a lot of stuff here. Well, first off, I'll just ask Noah's opinion on it. You've already had some, you've had the 2 games, one being the season opener. I don't know if you could necessarily throw that out, but you have a game recently where you've really, dominated the Knicks. But again, it was another fire shooting performance. This was the first game of the 3 that they didn't come out and absolutely just blow them out of the building by just burying 3-point shots. It wasn't an avalanche of threes that won this. They just beat them by being a much better, well-rounded overall team. This to me would be the most depressing of the 3 losses for the Knicks here, because you had your team as except for the Mitchell Robinson myth, which I'm not sure he's ever going to actually play. You had about as healthy a team as you could get here. And you looked like you're in a different weight class than the Celtics. You make a nice little run there to make it respectable, but this really felt like the game the Celtics had in complete control almost throughout all of it, and they just showed you their hand in so many different ways about why they're better than you in almost every aspect right now. You don't have the classic New York Knicks or Tibbs identity with the defense post-trade, and offensively, when the Celtics executed their defensive game plan the way that they did here, it's just not enough. You're not getting enough out of OG. You're not getting enough out of Bridges. So again, if you're the Knicks, is this the worst you could possibly feel? And are they not? Are we done talking about them as someone who can challenge the Celtics?
I mean, I think anything can happen, and there's still time for them to kind of get it together. But this was the first game they showed a response, so I guess you could draw that as a positive. But it doesn't feel like this team can hang with Boston and then Cleveland too. Cleveland humiliated them the other night, so it's just been a stretch of games here versus the top teams in the league that they're not even really competitive. And honestly, looking at like the Knicks team from last year, on paper I like this team better with Karl Anthony Towns playing at a high level with Mikal Bridges, but they don't have that edge that the old Knicks teams used to have with Hardenstein kind of at the rim, and even Julius Randle just being physical. Even if I'm not a huge believer in him in a playoff environment, but there used to feel like they could out-tough the Celtics at their best, and there's nothing about this current group that makes me feel that. And so certainly looking at the potential first, second conference finals matchups, like this team's not really on my radar. And I will say they were very smart today as a group to not say anything about the Knicks that was fuel. Asked a couple times, I think you asked Joe, a couple other people asked about like the message that was sent or their success against New York. They only kept it to, very respectful, and we respect them and everything. But you have to think that behind closed doors, they're feeling pretty good about this matchup.
And it's not like they've gotten no resistance. Like that game in New York, the last one, you were down in the third. They were gunning. Tatum had to go absolutely wild down the stretch there for you to pull away in that game. The opener was an out-of-this-world shooting explosion. I'm not discounting that stuff. The Celtics have a clear edge on this team so far. But if you did go into a second-round series against them and they're fully healthy and they have their wheels turning from the first round, every game's going to be tough against them. And I'd pick the Celtics there. I'd feel pretty good about it. But it's a tough crowd at MSG. It's a tough player at the point of attack, and Brunson, who scored 15 points in the final 5 minutes of the third there to make it a game. So there's a lot you have to account for there. And the good thing, I guess, for the Celtics is it just puts them at full alert. I think I said that right before you came on here. It's brought the best out of them. Like this was a playoff level intensity from them here. And the Knicks shot back a bunch of times and just couldn't carry those runs to make it a one-possession game.
Yeah. And again, I mean, I think just Cleveland is definitely the one that stands out right now. But you're right. Like, I think even you look at Milwaukee, they were 3-0 against Milwaukee this year. Like, there's time for things to change. Matchups can change. I don't know if Mitchell Robinson, if he comes back, the latest reports is that he'll be back soon. Like, if he's back at full strength, like that does provide them what they're really desperately missing to me.
It changes the shape.
Yeah,
of
I get
their
John's
team.
point.
Yeah.
Like, it seems right now like he's a little bit of a myth, but you never know, right? Sometimes those guys do end up coming back and being impactful.
The biggest problem is Towns at the 5, and that just throws everything out of whack
for the
from
Celtics.
there. Yeah, it's great, and they're not even contesting Porzingis' pick and pops at that point. So there's so much wrong there. I think a lot of it is the Knicks' efforts. I don't think they're just completely outmanned. So that's got to be demoralizing for them that they're not figuring out how to be in the right spots, how to defend this team. It doesn't even feel like they have a plan for what they want to do there. So that's where it doesn't look like they're close at all right now. But the offense for them is dynamic. Brunson's tough to guard. There's a lot there that you would go into a series and take that team super seriously. But, of course, we came into the year thinking that they could threaten the Celtics, and it doesn't look like that now.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things for me, I just thought Mikal Bridges was a better defender than he ended up being.
He's the one giving them nothing right now.
Yeah, and I thought, he's going to be that other difficult wing. Tatum and Brown, that's like the big thing, right? I think Gary's line of questioning today made a lot of sense because that is the story of DeAndre Hunter going to the Cavs, Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby on the Knicks. And so far, we haven't seen it so far, like really have the intended impact.
No.
And
that's the
early
thing, John.
Still.
You got to get guys who are on Tatum and Brown's level to challenge Tatum and Brown. You can't just get wing defender X, OG Anunoby.
Yeah.
He's however many.
But like I said, Bobby, in terms of wings that can do what those guys do, you can count them on one hand. So it's they don't grow on trees. Like Danny Ainge spent his entire life like trying to get one of these guys. He got two, that versatile, positionless, switchable wing, he just wants 5 of those guys out there, and that would be that between 6'9" and 6'6".
I love Hunter. I love Strus, and there's a lot of guys on that team. Okoro is great, and they have like 7 wings now that they've compiled to defend the Celtics. But you can't just combine them all.
I know. I always think that it's like.
I know, but this is like
win. They all have weaknesses that are going to kill them.
Yeah, but again, it's not like the amount that you get doesn't necessarily,
it's nice.
matter.
It's nice to have, but it doesn't give you a Tatum or Brown counter at that spot. And I have my doubts.
I know, but it's like that. It's like that Shel Silverstein poem, "Smart." Like I got 5 nickels for 1 quarter because 5 is more than 1. Or like 5 pennies for a quarter. It doesn't matter how many Struces or Javonte Greens you have to throw at Tatum and Brown. None of them. You can have 100 of them. None of them equal 1 Tatum or Brown. So again, you need something because you don't want to be like not at all competitive at that position. You're not gaining as much ground as you necessarily think there because again, no one's going to be those guys. One of the areas, clearly the Celtics have a huge advantage over the Knicks, especially with Mitchell Robinson out, is at the center position, which again seems
three.
You got three of them.
Oh, here we go.
You got three of them here, and and another game from Luke. And again, that first stint, Tatum and the bench guys in that first stint was better than the second one. But we have some behind the scenes Garden Report drama going on right now regarding Luke Cornett that I'm worried about here. I'm a little worried here. Is there's a little bit of an incursion going on in the Luke space.
I can't see the screen, but I know exactly what you put on there.
Noah's creeping a little bit.
No, I know I know it's up there. Amma just turned the screen so I can see. I know, and I saw the tweet. And I ignored it. If you didn't notice,
so she ignored it.
I did ignore it.
There's an interesting dynamic brewing for sure.
Are you trying to buy Luke Cornett Island from me? Is that what
no,
you're trying to do?
I think what you guys don't recognize
it's like
is
Greenland.
I'm not a bandwagon
You can't have Greenland. You can't have.
I legitimately. There's no limit to how many bench players I can get excited about. I live for good bench players. We have multiple on this team right now, and I'm going to be excited about all of them when they play well. I think everybody always thinks like Pritchard's the one I've been the loudest on, but like different people on the beat, they'll see Jordan Walsh check in, and they're like, "Are you thrilled?" And I'm like, "What is that even supposed to mean?" But because they know I like Jordan Walsh, so it's really not specific. You can have Luke as your guy, but objectively, he's been a great backup.
It's getting hot in here. Anybody else?
I'll accept it, but just tread light.
Back off is what he said.
I feel like ever since I asked a couple of Luke Cornett postgame questions, things haven't been the same.
I'm going to have to start asking some again, get back on my game.
I feel fairly responsible because we almost forced Bobby to stop talking about Luke. And then Noah saw the door open, just a crack, I think, and then just came charging through. And that's it. Bobby might be done. That might be it.
Sometimes it's better to have a different messenger for your message. Like this could actually be good for you because when you talk about Luke, people just don't want, like, they don't even take you seriously, even if you have a good point.
I'll give you some credit because you did fight to allow me to talk about Luke at different points.
I know. I'm like advocating for you on one thing. Yeah. We finally agree on something, and it's a bad thing.
Dudley was at the game.
Who?
Wow, you should have said hello.
Yeah, just
Dudley, you got to find us next time.
Noah.
Go ahead.
Just step off.
Yeah.
The Luke stuff's getting pretty crazy at this point because you got like Tatum hyping him up on Instagram, saying he's playing great. You got Joe saying he's been an energizer for him. We heard that
all the unsolicited stuff from Al.
The unsolicited Al stuff. Which
that Al locker room interview is going down in history.
I mean, he got asked how they were playing going into the break, and he was just like, Luke Cornett setting the tone for us, and we all need to follow his. They might as well name Luke the captain.
I wish I had a video of you during that moment instead of Al.
I think Luke should be the captain right now because he's the one getting them going. He's the one firing.
He's
them
our
up.
captain.
He's just playing so well, and every time he goes into the game now, it's like a strength. It's like an advantage they have on their opponents at that spot, and a lot of it's that they're playing him with double bigs. I love him out there with Porzingis because they're just so massive at the 4 and the 5 at that point. And he's just always doing the right things. He was freeing Tatum constantly throughout this game. The offensive rebounding's become a real problem for other teams, the way he's able to get in there. He's just great. And we've talked about
He's basically the captain. Yeah.
If he keeps going like this, we've talked about it. The bummer is that someone else is going to be like, we got to sign this guy and make him our backup or maybe even our
20
star.
mil. 20
the one thing I'll say is I think Luke Cornett is a case study in continuity when you stick with a guy and you stick with a group. Yeah, and you stick with a group because there are moments where he just knows the pass that is coming two passes before he gets it. I think if you plugged and played him somewhere else, like it wouldn't be the same. And in that same vein, if you brought in another high caliber big that has contributed well on playoff teams or whatnot, he wouldn't be able to do what Luke's doing right now. Like it's a Luke thing, but it's also Luke in this system with these players is just a perfect match. And it's, just in my year and a half covering the team, I've seen just how much the chemistry's grown. And I think it's just going to continue to, because there's just so much trust there. You hear how they talk about him, but it's also on the floor. They know where he wants to catch the ball around the rim. Like he knows to expect the passes. It's really beautiful to watch.
I'm going to add one thing to that, Noah, because I agree. The continuity matters for sure. You saw a team like Denver, figure it out after several years, winning the title a couple of years ago, and just kind of like what that mattered and sticking with that group together. And that was a big thing that they'd said, like, we didn't get panic, we didn't break things up, we stuck. The Celtics are kind of sort of newly formed, with their imports from last season, even though it feels like they've played together. But I think also liking each other matters. Like, Luke's been here and the continuity does help because they do have a familiarity and they've used him and they've had to, and he got thrust into the role, maybe when they didn't expect him to, and was able to do things. And then they realized, oh, he's good at this. Maybe we can do more of this with him. And they did start to play to some of his strengths and the things that he brings there. But I also think in just a simpler non-basketball sense, like, liking each other is important. And Luke's such a likable guy that, like, they want to say nice things about him because they want to point out that I want to make sure you guys are noticing, but he's been doing awesome stuff for us out there. And, like, they love that when he goes on those nights, which are fewer and further between now, but he'd still have stretch DNP CDs, and he's on the bench just going crazy and the number one cheerleader and all of this stuff there. And, like, they like him and they like, they're part of a group that matters. And to everyone who would say things like, oh, the guys don't have to be friends. No, you don't have to be friends to be successful, but it does help when you really like each other because you play for one another and he's out there playing for you, and you appreciate the contributions of a player like Kornet even more because he's got smaller windows with which to make an impact. And when he does it, you're like, yes, man, thank you. And it really is like Luke is really, he really is like a bench glue guy for these guys. He's been, he's awesome. I mean, he's got a good personality. He's a funny guy. He's a huge chemistry guy. You have to imagine in that locker room and kind of creating a vibe where people like to come to work every day.
Yeah. No one's too overbearing on this team. We've talked about different guys in the past who do too much, say too much, try to be too big of a voice. And, to Joe's comment the other day about the captain stuff, like, he's big on everybody being equal across the board there. And so you have voices on the bench, you have guys who are able to step up and make an impact. Like, I talked to Al a little bit before the game about it, and he was saying it's pretty unique that they're in that circumstance where, like, everybody's involved in that in some way there. So there is a lot of chemistry here. It's a lot of guys who play together. I think for those three guys off the bench in particular, Hauser, Kornet, and Pritchard, I remember them at the finals, at Golden State finals, just playing like pickup at the practices because they weren't going to be playing. And so those guys just kept playing together more and more, kept spending more and more time together. And that chemistry plays out on the court too, like you said. Guys know where they're going to be. Yeah. Guys know what plays they're running. There's just a seamless sync between everybody out there. And it's with the starters too now who've started to play together a lot more this year. And those, to John's point, are guys who aren't as familiar with each other. You didn't have Porzingis out there for the playoffs. You didn't have Holiday before last year. So that group's a little less familiar actually than the bench.
And honestly, I think the one really unique thing about Luke and John, you kind of touched on it. He might be the best player in the NBA.
Best in the NBA?
Stop. He might be the best player in the NBA who's totally okay with the DNP. Like,
okay. That's the show. We'll see you later. Best in the NBA. Good night, everybody.
If she wants to top me on the Luke praise, she can go there.
But you know what I'm saying? Like,
I literally wanted to hit the closing animation right there. And just end it.
It would have been fine.
Flip
I'm freezing. I'm like shaking right now. So
go ahead. No, go ahead. Sorry.
No, just after their Houston game, like, I asked him about, he had a great game that game, and I asked him about, like, he hadn't played for a few games before that. That was on the road, and he said, like, yeah, I don't care. Like, I really don't mind when I'm not playing. And I don't think that's true for Pritchard. I think Pritchard gets bummed out. I think Hauser gets bummed out. I think most regular people are competitors and they want to be on the court and they want to compete, and they're okay with the fact that the role is fluctuating and they're staying ready and all that. But I genuinely think he's completely fine with not playing in multiple games in a row. And then he'll come in and do what he's been doing. And I don't think there's a lot of NBA players like that. It's just not, that's not the nature of being a great athlete. Like, it's hard to find
who he is?
That balance.
You know what he is for the bench? And I'm sorry to take, I'm not that sorry. But he's,
I know what you're going to say.
What?
Go ahead.
He took the role Grant Williams thought he had. As terms of like bench glue chemistry guy.
But Grant hated being DNP'd, right? Like, he was
no. I'm saying Grant's the guy who thought he was like Mr. Everything, and he wasn't. He was annoying, and people didn't really vibe with him. Everybody vibes with Luke. The entire team.
Right.
So coming off of that bench group, it wasn't that Grant hated the DNPs and he didn't like when he got put in jail and he had to sit there and be sad and not play and not understand why. But Luke is that guy. He has that vibe and that personality there as well. Last thing I want to hit on, because Noah did mention it, and I think it is interesting, was the Derek White stuff. This was the comment the other day that you guys have heard about here with Derek White talking about playing with less joy.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I just like go into the arena and like just didn't have the same amount of like just joy, and just my energy kind of affected it. And I think that's just when I'm at my best, is when I'm like having fun and I'm just my energy's high and I'm just doing a lot of different things. So I think during that time when I wasn't playing well, and it kind of just all combined into probably a reason why I wasn't playing well. So just kind of come back and just be excited and do what I do best.
You just say to yourself, stop it, regroup, that kind of thing.
Yeah, just knock it off.
When did you feel like it turned, like that you were starting to have more fun again?
I don't know if there's an exact game. I just feel like the Toronto game probably was like my lowest one. And just from that point on, I'm just trying to make shots, miss shots is part of the game, but just trying to have that the right energy and the right mindset, and it's been better since then.
What was the? So I'll ask you guys. Sorry, what do you think made him sad?
I think he wasn't playing well for the first time as a Celtic, and like Joe, I thought Joe's answer was great today.
Not the first time.
Yeah, I guess first time since his kind of come up as a Celtic.
Yeah.
Joe was saying when your expectations rise, like he's become such a good player, his expectations are really high, and he suddenly wasn't, being able to match those. And you could see it. I think we had a lot of debates on here about whether it was effort or they didn't want it or it was confidence. And I think the part of what made it a good debate is that it was different things for different people. And I think that he was really the one where he kind of lost a lot of his confidence. And I went back to that Toronto game. He played 20 minutes in that game. Pritchard played 32.
Yeah.
So, it was actually like he was not the guy that Joe was turning to in that game. Like it got to the point where he was literally hurting them, which is kind of hard to imagine considering how impactful he's been for this team. So I do think like if you have to pick one reason why they were struggling in December and January, he's probably number one. In addition to like some of the complacency, he's just so critical, and he was you could see he was down on himself. It was hard to watch. Like he'd miss a layup and he'd run down like holding his head, and it's just he's too good of a player to lose that confidence. But I think it's a little bit more in his nature than some of the other elite players on this team is to have that doubt creep in a little.
And it wasn't just the misses, Noah. It was uncharacteristic, un-Derek White-like stuff.
The fouling three-pointer is like...
Exactly. Blowing an assignment, fouling somebody, bad fouls, getting blown by on the perimeter, a few times, weird, uncharacteristic, sloppy turnovers, all sorts of stuff that you don't normally see. So, I was curious, like what happened. And again, I don't want to read too much into a comment, but like you talk about a person loses his joy and is struggling for a lot of different ways. We do have to take into account like kind of the human element of things that sometimes we lose a little bit. I'm not going to get into mental health in terms, I don't know. He just might've been just slumping and feeling bad, but you never know what they're feeling. You never know, both mentally or physically. We talked about Holiday and people are burying him in the chat. Like he's gone, he's done, blah, 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 and this and that. And he might've just been dealing with that shoulder that's been driving him crazy. And it really limited what he's able to do.
I think the big part of those January struggles was physical. White's foot sprain. I think we said earlier, I think that probably flowed into a lot of the inconsistency he played with. Holiday's shoulder. Brown's dealt with several ailments that I think, might have even continued to show in this game. He said he wasn't feeling himself today in the press conference there. So they've been banged up this year pretty badly. Not stuff that's going to knock you out of a game. But both he and Holiday said it early in the year. Like we always wonder if you're hurt, if you're not playing well, if you're not yourself, why don't you just sit out for a little while and get it right? And Holiday actually did that before the break. But I think guys just generally feel like they're not going to be able to sit out long enough where it's going to get 100% right without it being a huge detriment. So they just played through stuff. And White came back after 1 or 2 games with that foot sprain, and he was off pretty immediately right there.
It was shoulder.
That's what I've looked at.
White was the
with
foot
him.
sprain.
Yeah, the Holiday was the
I thought you were
shoulder.
talking about Holiday. My bad.
So
yeah,
that's what I've always looked at with him. And then does that flow into mental,
Right.
inconsistency there over the next month or however long he struggled? I think it's probably a combination of the two for him there, but he was way off, and you did see it.
Yeah, and I think, John, you bring up a good point. Like me and Bobby actually had this conversation at All-Star Weekend about how we don't know what's going on in people's personal lives. That's the way that it should be for the most part. And I think sometimes it's, there might be like someone dealing with something really difficult or multiple people, and it kind of compounds. And so with Derek, if I had to guess, it probably was just a basketball thing and he was just losing his confidence and kind of freaking out a little bit. But it is always like when we're sitting here racking our brains for like, why does this guy look like this? Like, he very well might be dealing with something that maybe in 3 years there'll be an article written about
They said
it.
mental a lot
yeah.
in the Sports Illustrated article. I still find that super interesting that he said part of the first half struggles for himself and the team was mental. So it's a factor. There's no doubt.
Yeah, you don't know if it could be a personal thing, and you're right. No, we're not supposed to know all of this stuff, and people don't always choose to share, and that's entirely their right. It could be absolutely they're just bored and lazy. Could be that they're out partying every night. Like
sounds like enough of this mental talk.
No, but you never know exactly. You never know exactly, and I don't think that it's fair to speculate sometimes, but it is frustrating because it's frustrating to not know, and I think that's what people go through. We are going to wrap it up. I'm being given alerts from the field that the batteries are dying, and we've been going for nearly 2 hours, but it's been a while. We haven't done a show. I got to give a shout out before I go to VJ from Roslindale, who ran into me coaching his son's basketball team in practice immediately after my daughter's team was practicing. And VJ is like, I love Noah. I don't know if she'll remember me, but we did this coaching thing back at Sewell in Brookline, and she helped out and did some stuff when maybe she was in 8th grade or 9th grade. I can't really remember, but if she does remember, give her a shout out. So VJ says hello, and he is a fan of the show. Yeah, and he and I said I would give him a shout out on the next one.
Hell of a memory.
Yeah,
I thought I had it, but I was a freshman in college for the memory I had. So
it might have been. He might have had it backwards. He might have thought he might have said something else.
I was a young freshman.
Yeah. His son, is a 4th grade team. He's coaching his 4th graders, and they were out there practicing. And I chatted it up with him a little bit. Great guy, big fan of the show. So shout out VJ and the boys. Big Kess, holy crap!
Did he say anything about me?
Buck 45. You come in here. Nah, mainly Noah.
Nothing for Jimmy.
Right. Maybe next time. That's okay.
Jimmy, you should have seen at All-Star Weekend. Everyone kept coming up to us and saying, "Noah, you're the best Celtics reporter in the world." And I was just like, all right.
Damn, no love for my guy, Bobby. Noah.
He got more outfit compliments.
I got more outfit compliments, so I'll take those.
That's actually all that matters. Yeah, that's more important.
Bobby, you got an awesome mustache.
Love the turtleneck.
Hey guys, I'm not gonna tell you you have to do something, but I'm not going to object if you do hit that like button. Sure, I'd like 500 likes, and I'd like a bunch of more subscriptions. So if you guys want to like and subscribe and turn on your notifications, you'll be told when we go live or when a new video posts. Absolutely, please do that. As for everything else, we're back on Tuesday with the Celtics taking on Toronto, I believe. But you can catch a lot more stuff on this channel or on our Celtics All Access channel. You should subscribe to both as we kind of hit that nitty-gritty period here, getting through February doldrums into March and then into the playoffs here as things take shape. The Celtics kind of finalize who they're going to be, where they're going to be, who they're going to play, what things are going to look like. And as we enter, get set to enter the playoffs for hopefully another long, potentially championship run, which is great. But that's it. Thank you, Bobby. Thank you, Noah. Thank you, Jimmy. Sherrod will be back on Tuesday as well. Thank you again, everybody at home, for watching a nice, tidy Sunday afternoon game, 5 o'clock, 5:15. We are done.
Tuesday.
Okay. We're gonna take care. We're gonna peace out. But thank you guys again for watching. We'll see you on Tuesday. No one's sneaking a vegan brownie by me. I'll tell you that.
Okay, you know what, John? We're gonna do it.
You have to feel that way too, Bobby.
I have to feel that way. Let's fight out over and make Luke your first center.
Bobby, we gave you Luke an hour early. We are not going to end this on a damn conversation about Luke